Hey, so everyone's talking about this voice to Parliament that we're going to be voting on in October this year. And this voice is meant to be a body made up of Indigenous Australians who have the right to be able to make representations to the Parliament on behalf of Indigenous Australians. Sounds harmless enough, right? Well, the problem is that's only a small part of the story. You see, what we're not being told, but which is actually out there in plain sight and told to us by the Uluru Statement from the Heart and its website, is that this voice to Parliament is actually part of a larger program which involves a treaty. So the voice to Parliament is something that is discussed in the Uluru Statement from the Heart, a statement that Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has recently said he wants to implement in full. So what does this Uluru Statement from the Heart have to say? Well as advocating for a voice to Parliament, it says that we seek a Makarrata Commission to supervise a process of agreement making, a Makarrata Commission. It also says that Makarrata is the culmination of our agenda. Now, what is this Makarrata that the Uluru Statement from the Heart is advocating for and that the Voice is going to advocate for? Well, the Uluru Statement from the Heart website tells us. There's a whole page on the website that you can look up simply called Makarrata. And it defines Makarrata for us. Makarrata is another word for treaty or agreement making. It is the culmination of our agenda. So the culmination of the agenda of the Voice is not just to make representations for Aboriginal people, but it's actually to advocate for a treaty. Now, what kind of treaty are we talking about? Well, again, the Uluru Statement from the Heart is pretty helpful because it goes on to talk about a, quote, potential for two sovereignties to coexist. There it is, right there from the website, a potential for two sovereignties to coexist. So essentially what the Uluru Statement from the Heart and its advocates and the Voice to Parliament are going to be advocating is a treaty between Indigenous Australians and non-Indigenous Australians and the establishment of some kind of Indigenous sovereignty. Now, the word sovereignty is a word that we really only reserve for countries. So at its most radical, we're talking about the Voice to Parliament becoming a perpetual call for the establishment of a treaty for Indigenous sovereignty, literally an Indigenous country within Australia. Do you think that that's going to bring about unity? Of course not. That's going to bring nothing but division. Now, we all sort of remember Lydia Thorpe going on about sovereignty and treaty and that kind of thing, and we all sort of thought, well, she's just a radical, she's just a minority voice in the Aboriginal rights movement. Wrong. In actual fact, she was saying the quiet part out loud. And again, if you go to the Uluru Statement from the Heart website, if you look at the Uluru Statement itself, you will see that they are openly advocating for a treaty and for sovereignty. And you can bet that if this voice is instituted in October, that very quickly it will settle into becoming a perpetual call for a treaty and for Indigenous sovereignty. And for every problem that the Voice fails to be able to fix, it will always say that we cannot fix it because you have not given us a treaty, you have not given us sovereignty. This will bring about national division. And that's why we've got to vote no to this Voice to Parliament.